So we're finishing in Zechariah today with the last chapter, and in some ways it starts off rather surprisingly in verse 1. A day of the Lord is coming, Jerusalem, when your possessions will be plundered and divided up within your walls. The whole of Zechariah's prophecy is by encouraging people with the rebuilding of the temple, because they've been in exile, they've come back, it's a low ebb for the people of God, things are difficult, and it's been promising a great future, city without walls, all those sorts of things. And now there's a prophecy that there's a time coming when there will be judgment again. This seems to be speaking about the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. I will gather all the nations to Jerusalem to fight against it. The city will be captured, the houses ransacked, and the women raped. Half of the city will go into exile, but the rest of the people will not be taken from the city. Then the Lord will go out and fight against those nations as he fights on a day of battle. Suddenly it turns now, and is it speaking about AD 70, or is it speaking about the end times and the return of Jesus? Because suddenly the Lord is fighting for his people. On that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two from east to west, forming a great valley, with half of the mountain moving north and half moving south. You will flee by my mountain valley, for it will extend to Azel. You will flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Then the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him, the return of the Lord. On that day there will be neither sunlight nor cold, frosty darkness. It will be a unique day, a day known only to the Lord, with no distinction between day and night. When evening comes, there will be light. On that day living water will flow out from Jerusalem, half of it east to the Dead Sea and half of it west to the Mediterranean Sea, in summer and in winter. The Lord will be king over the whole earth. On that day there will be one Lord, and his name the only name. This is a cataclysmic day when everything's messed up, mountains are splitting, and day and night and light and darkness are all confused and not separated, and there's something very significant happening, and it's the day when the Lord returns and he is going to be king over the whole earth. Everyone will acknowledge that he is the Lord. It reminds us of the Philippians, and every knee will bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. The whole land from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, will become like the Arabah, but Jerusalem will be raised up high from the Benjamin gate to the site of the first gate, to the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananel to the royal wine presses, and will remain in its place. It will be inhabited. Never again will it be destroyed. Jerusalem will be secure. This is the plague with which the Lord will strike all the nations that fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they're still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. On that day people will be stricken by the Lord with great panic. They will seize each other by the hand and attack one another. Judah too will fight at Jerusalem. The wealth of all the surrounding nations will be collected, great quantities of gold and silver and clothing. A similar plague will strike the horses and mules, the camels and donkeys, and all the animals in those camps. Then the survivors from all the nations that have attacked Jerusalem will go up year after year to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, and to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. If any of the peoples of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, they will have no rain. If the Egyptian people do not go up to take part, they will have no rain. The Lord will bring on them the plague he inflicts on the nations that do not go up to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. This will be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that do not go up to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. So Jerusalem's going to be plundered, it's going to fall, and then suddenly the Lord is going to turn against the nations who are doing that. Cataclysmic events are going to happen. There's only going to be one God. God's people will be rescued. Jerusalem will no longer be destroyed, the picture of the heavenly city. And the nations will come into it and celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles, this celebration of the journey from exile, the redemption of people from Egypt. But even the Egyptians are coming up to celebrate that now. And if they're not, they're going to be punished. There is this very strange picture going on here. On that day, holy to the Lord will be inscribed on the bells of the horses, and the cooking pots in the Lord's house will be like the sacred bowls in front of the altar. Every pot in Jerusalem and Judah will be holy to the Lord Almighty, and all who come to sacrifice will take some of the pots and cook in them. And on that day there will no longer be a Canaanite in the house of the Lord Almighty. It seems a very strange end, a climactic end to this amazing book with all these visions and great promises, and then all of a sudden there's this strange cataclysmic last chapter Jerusalem's got further turmoil to go through, but God's going to rescue his people. And the highlight, every pot in Jerusalem will be holy to the Lord Almighty. Really? That's the highlight? Every pot's going to be holy? What's the picture here? That every utensil, every little thing within Jerusalem is going to be holy. The whole problem of Judah's and Israel's sin that has caused the judgment to fall on them, the sin that separates the world from its maker, and in this new Jerusalem every little item is going to be holy, even the bells on the horses, all fully dedicated to the Lord, not used for selfish or personal means, but to the Lord's glory. There's this beautiful picture of holiness running through every little thing. And there'll be no Canaanite in the house of the Lord Almighty, no pagan worshipping person, no one who doesn't belong. It would just be God's people, pure and undefiled. This is the glorious end of all that's going to happen. And the joy is that we can be in that city because of what the Lord Jesus Christ has done for us. And so we live today in a world which is stained and polluted by sin. Our own lives are a battle and struggle with sin. There is more turmoil to come in this world. The end is not over in terms of the challenge and the sadness and the suffering, but there is a day coming when the Lord will return and all will be put right, and we will live in a holy place, a perfect place, a place of God's mercy and grace and compassion, where his glory is made known in those characteristics, and everything will be untainted. Even the smallest pot, the most insignificant utensil, will all be used rightly for the Lord's glory, and the world will be at harmony and peace again. And this is our end. This is where we're heading to. So let's be encouraged by that. Let's take the challenge to live holy lives even today, thinking about even the menial little bits that we do. How do we serve the Lord in those? Because that's where we're heading. That's how life is going to be in glory. Let's recognise that there are still troubled times to come, but we're going to be brought through those safely if we're trusting in the Lord Jesus. And one day the Lord is going to return. So let's press on in that hope today through all that's